In the work group chat, the little secretary posted a photo of my husband working intently under the setting sun. The caption read, "In the morning I look at the sky. In the evening I watch the clouds. Whether I'm walking or sitting, I'm always thinking of you." At first, I didn't think much of it until the two of them went on a business trip together. And that night the secretary posted another seductive photo. She was wearing a sexy lace slip dress, taking a mirror selfie. On her neck was a bright, unmistakable hickey. I don't know what someone commented, but she replied, "Hehe, sleeping with my dream guy feels like owning the whole world." In the lower right corner of the photo, near the foot of the bed, I caught sight of a pair of custom-designed underwear, ones I had personally made for my husband. I casually left a comment, "Since you like them so much, my husband's giving them to you." Half an hour later, my husband called, screaming at me, "Rose Lynn, all Grace did was post on Instagram. Was it really necessary for you to throw shade at her like that? You're the company president. For God's sake, can you not be so petty and jealous, bringing this kind of drama into the workplace?" Then I heard the secretary's voice, tinged with sobs. "Chairwoman Lynn, I love him for who he is, not like you. So shallow, only caring about money." The call ended with my husband comforting her gently. I couldn't help but laugh. If it weren't for my money, how would he even have the nerve to go on business trips and rent hotel rooms? Chapter 1. After the call ended, Grace's Instagram post mysteriously disappeared. I tried calling again, but Pablo's phone was powered off. I laughed again. When we got married, Pablo swore over and over that his phone would always be on for me, that no matter what I was upset about, I could call him anytime. But now, for the sake of his little secretary, all those solemn vows were long forgotten. I messaged the executive assistant at the company, "For this business trip of President's songs, who exactly went along? Send me the hotel booking details." A short while later, the assistant sent me a screenshot of the hotel reservation. It showed only 2 guests, Pablo and Grace, and the room booked was a presidential suite. I stared at the screenshot, dazed, feeling a sharp pang in my chest. I gave myself 5 minutes to think. After 5 minutes, I decisively sent Pablo Song a message. "When you get back, let's get a divorce." 2 hours later, Pablo called me back. He seemed to have just finished something, still slightly out of breath, and started off by questioning me. "Rose, have you made enough of a scene? It's just a 1-week business trip, and it's for the company. Can't you just calm down? I already explained it to you. Grace is just my secretary. Nothing happened between us. We're completely innocent. Please stop making a fuss, okay?" I said nothing, quietly watching as the housekeeper packed all of Pablo's belongings and threw them out the door. "Are you finished?" My voice was unusually calm. Pablo fell silent on the other end. "Finished? So you're not angry anymore? I'll bring you a gift when the trip's over." I let out a bitter laugh. "Don't bother. You're spending my money anyway. Better save it for your secretary. And after the divorce, I'll give you $50 million as a separation fee. Since the love is gone, let's part on good terms." Without waiting for Pablo's reaction, I hung up the phone. He called several more times afterward, but I didn't answer. I just let the phone ring off to the side. The driver came upstairs. He looked bewildered at the mountain of bags piled up at the door. "Chairwoman Lynn, are you saying all of this is to be delivered to President Song's office?" "That's right." "Oh, Anne." I suddenly remembered something, turned back to the bedroom, and brought out the last 2 pairs of Pablo's custom-made underwear. I handed them to the driver. "These 2, make sure they're placed somewhere very visible in his office." The driver looked both amused and helpless but still accepted them. "Don't worry, Chairwoman Lynn, I'll get it done." Chapter 2. The driver was indeed very efficient. That very night, he moved all of Pablo's belongings into his office. Early the next morning when I arrived at the company, quite a few employees were huddled together whispering and gossiping. "Did you see it? It's honestly hilarious. I just came out of President Song's office. Guess what I saw? He got kicked out by Chairwoman Lynn. All his stuff is piled up in the office. Looks like he's homeless now. And the funniest part, do you know what it is? There are 2 pairs of underwear lying right there on President Song's desk, exactly the same style as the ones from Grace's Instagram post. When they saw me walk by, Their faces turned dead serious. But once I passed, the discussion heated up again. I lifted the corners of my mouth slightly. Pablo, this is the consequence of betraying me. Since you had the guts to mess around with your secretary, I'll make sure you lose face completely at the company. On the way to get coffee, I noticed one of the younger guys in the office, Leo, wearing a small elastic band around his wrist. Smiling, I asked, "You don't tie up your hair, and you don't have kids. What are you doing with that elastic?" Leo scratched his head and laughed shyly. A female colleague nearby chimed in, "Chairwoman Lynn, you don't know? That means he's in a relationship. The hair tie is a way to declare ownership. It says I'm taken." I froze in place. Suddenly I remembered, 6 months ago, I saw a black elastic band around Pablo's right wrist. He was cooking, and when he rolled up his sleeves, I spotted it. My gaze only lingered on his wrist for a moment, but Pablo immediately took the band off and offered an explanation. "It's my colleague's daughter's hair tie. I was helping her tie her hair and forgot to take it off." I returned to my office and started looking through group photos from the company, and pictures of Grace at work. Sure enough, she often wore her hair in a high ponytail tied with a black elastic. Chapter 3. After the business trip ended, Pablo didn't come back to the company right away. He didn't go home either. Instead, he went shopping. I had just come out of a meeting room when I saw Grace's new Instagram post. "The one who loves you will always save the very best for you." In the photo, her pale collarbone was still faintly marked with a hickey, and she wore a gold necklace shaped like a love clover. But what really stood out was a man's hand that made it into the frame. On his ring finger was the wedding band I had so carefully picked out. The two of them really were addicted to this game. I skillfully logged into the joint credit card account shared between Pablo and me. Sure enough, just 2 hours ago, there was a charge for over 100,000 yuan. I closed my phone, my eyes now carrying a hint of mockery. "Pablo, I've changed my mind. This time, there won't even be the 5 million breakup fee. I'm going to make sure you walk away with nothing." At 2 p.m., Grace came into the company, arm in arm with Pablo, chatting and laughing. When she saw me sitting there, Grace immediately let go of his arm and awkwardly greeted me. "Chairwoman Lynn, hello." I didn't respond, just let my gaze rest meaningfully on the clover necklace around her neck. A 6-figure necklace, bought just like that. "Seems like President Song is treating you pretty well." Grace's face went pale. She looked to Pablo for help, eyes brimming with tears. "President Song, Chairwoman Lynn is misunderstanding me." Pablo stepped forward to shield her, frowning as he handed me a lipstick gift box. "Rose, can you not let your imagination run wild? Grace's been wearing heels all afternoon, helping me pick out a gift for you. She hasn't complained once, and here you are, acting all passive-aggressive." I took the lipstick, only to find it was that hideous dead Barbie pink I hated the most. I sneered and handed it back to him. "Really went through all that trouble, huh? You spent all afternoon choosing, and still picked the ugliest one." Pablo's face instantly darkened. "Rose, don't be so ungrateful." I ignored him, turned around, and took out a printed divorce agreement from my drawer, pushing it toward him. "Pablo, since you've already found your delicate little flower and are playing the hero saving the damsel in distress, I'll give you too my blessing." I knocked on the desk 3 times and handed him a black pen. "But let's be clear, you were the one who cheated during the marriage. You leave with nothing." Chapter 4. Pablo skimmed through the divorce agreement and raised his hand, ready to tear it apart. But Grace, standing behind him, subtly tugged on his arm and gave him a look. Pablo hesitated, then turned to me. "Rose, every brick and tile of this company was built by me. What right do you have to make me leave with nothing? Even if we're getting divorced, the company should belong to me. Leaving with nothing is your punishment." Hearing him say this so righteously, my eyes were filled with mockery. Before he met me, Pablo was a penniless Phoenix man. The thing he ate most every month was instant noodles. He couldn't even afford a belt. He worked low-end jobs all day, only returning to his tiny rental room at midnight. He was on the verge of depression from how hard life was. It was me who couldn't bear to see it any longer and offered to be with him. I was drawn to the melancholy, fragile vibe he had, like a sensitive intellectual. It was something this rich girl had never encountered, and I was deeply fascinated by it. Relying on my parents' wealth, I gave him 5 million yuan in startup capital to support his business. When his company hit a crisis, I gave him a crucial investment to help him through it. When he said he didn't have enough manpower, I put aside my own career to help him. I thought he would truly treat me as family, thought he'd actually mean it when he swore I meant more to him than his own life. But thinking back now, it's nothing but a ridiculous joke. I've always believed in this: when fate brings two people together, so be it. When the bond is gone, there's no need to force it. Since our marriage had long become a hollow shell, there was no point clinging to it. I smiled as I stood up and stuffed the divorce agreement into his hands. Pablo, even if you don't agree to the terms in my agreement, it doesn't matter, because in a few days, I'll use real actions to kick you out. Pablo let out a cold, mocking laugh. Rose, have you been in upper management so long that you've forgotten how the company even runs? Forgotten who really calls the shots at Rose Group? I didn't bother with him. I gave a faint smile and patted Grace on the shoulder. Sweetheart, what's gained through underhanded means never lasts. Chapter 5. That night, Pablo practically blew up my phone with calls. I didn't need to guess, he must have panicked when he realized he couldn't get back into the house. The same day Grace posted on Instagram, trying to flaunt and provoke me. I had already packed up all of Pablo's belongings and sent them to the company. I even had the locks changed immediately. There was no trace of Pablo left in this house. A dozen or so missed calls piled up in my notification bar. I casually swiped them away and opened a bottle of red wine to celebrate. After washing up and getting into bed, I picked up my phone and saw Pablo had sent me a text message. Rose, you pushed me to this. Don't regret it. Below the message was a photo. The hand with his wedding ring was wrapped around a girl's slim waist. Though the girl's face wasn't visible, the image was highly suggestive. I replied casually, have fun. The next morning, I went to the hospital. I took a week off from the company to rest. What shattered my peaceful break was Pablo storming in, furious. A week later, he slapped me across the face. Rose, you're vicious. That lawsuit from the lawyers was your doing, wasn't it? Forcing me out of the company with nothing. Handing over all my shares. What a scheme you cooked up. You venomous woman. I never thought you'd be this calculating. You were planning this from the start, weren't you? He tried to hit me again, but I kicked him to the floor. I let out a cold laugh and slapped him 3 more times. Hard. Pablo was stunned by the blows. Rose, you dare hit me? Why wouldn't I? Especially since he made the first move. We're not done yet. I clapped my hands. Pablo rolled up his sleeves, ready to come at me again. But before he could move, 2 bodyguards behind me pinned him down. Pablo had never been one for the gym. His skinny frame was no match for the 2 burly bodyguards. Under their fists and kicks, Pablo groaned and wailed in pain. I simply folded my arms, coldly watching him. Pablo, I warned you, lay a hand on me, and I'll make you pay with your life. Chapter 6. Pablo was beaten black and blue, out of the kindness of my heart. I even called an ambulance for him. As he was being taken away, he gave me a look that now held a trace of fear. Rose, I never knew you could be this ruthless. I shot back without hesitation. Right back at you. I never knew you were the kind of coward who hits women. After the ambulance left, I returned to the office and put away the equity agreement. In fact, Pablo had gotten it wrong. I didn't just directly kick him out of the company. What I actually did was have the Zhou Group, under my name, acquire Rose Group, the very company he had founded from scratch. Now the company no longer belonged to him, it had become just one of my subsidiaries. A man who climbed his way up by relying on me had the nerve to try and kick me out with nothing. All for the sake of a secretary? You're still way too green. That same afternoon, I received a call from my mom. I didn't hesitate to answer, and right away her scolding voice came roaring through the line. Rose, what are you doing? We had an appointment for your prenatal checkup today at the hospital. Dr. Jean and I have been waiting forever. Why haven't you shown up? I froze slightly at her words. Then a faint, bitter smile tugged at my lips. Mom, I already had a miscarriage. Let Dr. Jean know it's cancelled. Worried she'd be too upset. I quickly added. And Pablo and I are getting a divorce soon. You can delete and block his contact info now. But my mom became even more furious upon hearing that. What nonsense are you talking about? You ungrateful girl. You chose this man yourself. After all these years of marriage, you finally got pregnant, and you just got rid of the baby? Does Pablo even know about this? Get back here immediately. If worse comes to worst, apologize to Pablo. Take back what you said about the divorce, and reconcile with him. I let out a helpless sigh. Mom, our relationship is already broken. There's no point in staying together. But my mom absolutely refused to listen. You stupid girl. What nonsense are you spouting? Do you even realize how badly divorce affects a woman? Stop messing around and bring Pablo to see me. Otherwise, don't even think about stepping foot in the Lin household ever again. Chapter 7. After the call ended, I was overwhelmed by a wave of despair and helplessness. It was clearly Pablo who betrayed this relationship first. He was the one flirting with his secretary behind my back. And yet, even though my mom had suffered terribly when my dad cheated, she still expected me to just endure it. Growing up, my mom loved me the most, but when it came to marriage, she was extremely traditional. She believed a woman should revolve around her man, no matter what. Even though I founded Joe Group, even though I helped grow Rose Group into what it is today, in front of relatives and family friends, she still boasted about Pablo, always exaggerating his role, saying I'd found a great son-in-law, and giving all the credit to him. My mom has a congenital heart condition. She can't afford to get overly emotional, worried I might really upset her. I hesitated for a moment before dialing Basil's number. It barely rang twice before he picked up. Basil, you once told me, if I ever changed my mind, I should call you. Does that still stand? Basil's laughter rang out on the other end of the line, full of excitement. I could practically hear him springing off the couch. Of course! Sis, you finally remembered me. See? Now you know the perks of dating a sweet puppy like me, don't you? And wait, weren't you totally head over heels for that song guy in your family? What now? You're getting divorced? I sighed silently. Sure, the puppy-type younger guy was energetic and eager, but way too chatty. Shut up. I need you to go home with me and pretend to be my boyfriend. You want this chance or not? Basil, of course, pushed his luck. Sis, just pretend to be your boyfriend? I was hoping for. I cut him off immediately. If you don't want the job, I'll ask someone else. I want it. I'll come. From today on, I'm officially Rosa's boyfriend. Chapter 8. I met Basil at a company social event. He was handsome and charming, and instantly fell for me at first sight. After that gathering, he began showering me with attention, trying to pursue me. Even though I repeatedly told him I was already married, Basil would just smile and say, "It's okay, I'll wait for you." Over the past 2 years, he really had turned down all the blind dates his family tried to set up, ones that were good matches on paper. During holidays and festivals, he'd send me text messages. Sometimes, he'd even send small gifts. I rejected them all, but Basil never gave up. He'd always speak with conviction, telling me, "Sis, I truly believe it won't be long before you finally see me." People often say, when choosing a husband, a woman should pick someone younger. That way, you get to enjoy life while you're young, and still have someone to take care of you when you're old. When I first read that, I scoffed in disbelief. But now, after everything with Pablo, I had to admit, crude as the saying might be, there's some truth to it. There was a time I wore a pink lingerie dress and stood in front of Pablo, asking him if I looked good. But the sparkle in his eyes was long gone, replaced by impatience. Rose. Pink is soft and youthful. It's for girls in their early 20s. Look at your age. Dressing like this? Aren't you embarrassed? After saying that, he turned and went back to the study to work, leaving me alone in the bedroom, stunned. Back then, I thought these changes were just the natural shift of time. But after seeing that Instagram post from the little secretary Grace, I pieced all those little details together. There was only one explanation. Pablo had fallen out of love. Chapter 9. I brought Basil along with some fruit and gifts to the hospital, planning to apologize to my mom and Dr. Jean. But on the way to the doctor's office, I spotted a familiar figure. Grace, wearing a micro-mini skirt and sky-high heels, was walking into a hospital room. Pablito, how could that awful woman beat you up like this? She went way too far. If it were me, I'd be too busy loving you to ever lay a hand on you. Why haven't you divorced her already? Rose is such a tacky, materialistic woman. I'm not like her. I only care about my Pablito. I suddenly found it all quite amusing and stopped in my tracks. Basil sensed something was off and asked, "What's wrong?" I shushed him gently. "There's a good show happening in there." As Grace went on and on with her flattery, Pablo gradually became inflated with pride, and his resentment toward me deepened. Rose is nothing but a shrew. She took all my shares and even hired bodyguards to beat me up like this. Once I recover and get discharged, I'll make her pay. Grace's eyes lit up with a spark of calculation. Great! So when are you getting discharged? I've got my eye on a new handbag lately. When you're better, will you take me to go buy it? Pablo's expression suddenly turned awkward. He glanced up at Grace, hesitating to speak. Grace, I don't have a single penny on me right now. I gave you that 1 million yuan before. Can you help me cover my hospital bill? The hand Grace had placed on Pablo's quickly pulled away. Pablito, wasn't that money you gave me for clothes? I've already spent it all. And you know, ever since you got injured, Chairwoman Lin fired me on the spot. I don't have any money either. Though Grace tried to hide it, a flash of disgust and contempt still passed through her eyes. She had never expected that the powerful CEO she'd finally latched onto would go bankrupt so easily. As the two of them sat there in tense silence, Grace suddenly remembered something and perked up. Pablito, didn't Rose give you that intimacy credit card back then? Why not use that one? Chapter 10. I couldn't help but sneer. Pablo once solemnly swore to me that he regarded that intimate credit card as a symbol of my love for him, and that he would never use it unless it was absolutely critical, because that credit card was directly linked to my personal bank account. But now, Pablo perked right up. It's in my wallet. In the pocket. Grace, go get it. Grace rummaged for a while and finally found the gleaming gold credit card. Looking all smug, she called a nurse over and said she wanted to pay the bill. But the nurse wasn't having any of it and replied expressionlessly, "Go to the payment counter directly. Why are you calling me?" Grace's face turned green with anger. What kind of attitude is that? When she headed to the payment counter, she walked like a crab, sideways, as if she owned the place. But in just a few minutes, she came back with an ugly expression. "Pablito, they said this credit card has been frozen too." Pablo looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. "Rose, you're really pushing me to the edge, aren't you? If that's how it is, then don't blame me for not holding back." As he spoke, he pulled out his phone, trying to call someone. I scoffed coldly. This man, cornered with nowhere to go, had only this kind of petty response left. Thinking I ever loved him, what a joke. Just as I turned to leave, Basil suddenly walked in holding my hand. "President Song, I didn't expect you to be such a ladies' man with such a cute little secretary by your side. No wonder you gave up our Rose." I was still processing what was happening, staring at Basil in shock, asking with my eyes what he thought he was doing. He gave me a reassuring look and whispered that he was here to help me get revenge. Sure enough, the moment we walked in, Pablo's face darkened visibly. His eyes locked on Basil and me, our fingers interlocked, and he practically growled through clenched teeth. "Basil, I haven't divorced Rose yet. Don't you think it's shameless to be all handsy with her like that?" Chapter 11. Basil let out a laugh. "Shameless? Oh, come on, President Song. That's hilarious. Rose and I are completely innocent, unlike you and your secretary, who clearly play a lot dirtier." His gaze carried a certain meaning as it landed on Grace. Grace looked like she was terrified of Basil, avoiding eye contact and trying her best not to meet his gaze. Basil had come here to flaunt. "I should thank you. Really, if you hadn't willingly picked your little secretary, how else would I have had the chance to be Rose's boyfriend?" Pablo's face was now so dark, it was almost dripping. His fists clenched tightly. If he weren't lying sick in bed, he probably would have lunged at Basil right then. In the end, I couldn't bear to let it go on and pulled Basil away. "Enough. Don't make my mom and Dr. Jean wait too long." I held Basil's arm, walking out with full composure under Pablo's murderous glare. Once outside, something kept nagging at me. "Basil, do you know Grace?" Basil was still basking in the joy of victory, the corners of his mouth curling uncontrollably. Every guy in this circle knows Grace. She's a dead ringer for a green tea bitch, flirting her way through every CEO in the network. I found it unbelievable. Then suddenly, I got curious. So you're saying she hit on you too? And you didn't fall for it? After all, Grace did have a top-tier face and body. Early 20s. And though she acted like a total slut, her eyes were full of ambition. That kind of woman usually had no trouble attracting men. Please, we're all seasoned foxes here. You see enough demons and monsters. You know exactly what they are. Then Basil suddenly turned serious, affectionately grasping my hand. Only a useless man like Pablo could be completely taken in by her. A man with real taste would obviously like someone like you. Sis. He kept calling me sis so sweetly that I started to soften. Even the pain Pablo caused me began to feel like it wasn't worth mentioning. You're full of sweet talk. Puppy boys can't be trusted either. I turned to leave, but Basil quickly caught up behind me. Chapter 12. I took Basil with me to meet Dr. Jean and my mom at the director's office. The prenatal appointment had been scheduled 2 weeks in advance, and since I canceled last minute, it was my fault. I should have apologized to Dr. Jean. But my mom wasn't letting it go. She was furious that I'd gone through with an abortion without telling her, and that I was divorcing Pablo. Sigh. What a pity! We tried for years, and just when we finally managed to get pregnant, you gave it up so easily. Even Dr. Jean expressed regret. After all, ever since we got married, there had never been any movement in my belly. Both my mom and mother-in-law had been urging me to have a child. Dr. Jean had been the one constantly helping me regulate my body, bringing all sorts of traditional Chinese medicine to our home. And finally, this past year, I got pregnant. Previously, my mom had wanted to tell Pablo the good news right away, but I refused. I wanted to wait until he came back from his business trip and tell him myself. But before he even returned, I saw that Instagram post where Grace flaunted her affair with him. At that moment, everything suddenly felt meaningless. So now, even after the miscarriage, I felt no regret. My mom was full of anger at first, but the moment she saw the handsome young man standing behind me, her attention instantly shifted. Rose. Who is this young man? My new boyfriend. This time, my mom was surprisingly warm. She pulled Basil down to sit beside her and started asking him everything, his background, family, career, digging for details like she was interviewing him for marriage. 2 hours later, she gave her stamp of approval. I didn't expect my daughter to be this capable. Even after a divorce, she managed to find someone even better. From what I see, Basil's got it all: background, capability, and the way he looks at you with love. Compare him line by line, and he beats Pablo hands down. Divorce was the right move. I was speechless, torn between laughing and crying. I never expected my mom to be such a fangirl. But Basil just smiled and rebutted. Auntie's not a fangirl. She's just stating facts. Compared to your ex-husband, this is what we call a dimensional crush. Chapter 13. After Basil and I finished dinner and he dropped me off at home, I had just walked in when my mother-in-law called. She immediately began cursing me out. Rose, do you even have a conscience? I'm your lifesaver, and this is how you repay me? My son worked so hard for all these years. All that money, he earned it himself. And now you won't leave him a single cent. Just run off with another man? Are you even human? It took me a moment to realize what was happening. Pablo had gone crying to his mother. Honestly, it was kind of funny. Back then, I was at the riverside about to go swimming. She didn't know me at the time and thought I was trying to jump in and kill myself. So she stopped me. That incident brought us together. And that's how I eventually met Pablo, even though it was just a silly misunderstanding. In her eyes, she believed she had saved my life. Every time she needed money or a favor, she would use that lifesaver card to guilt-trip me. And now, she was using it to try and force me to return the company to Pablo. But I knew her money-hungry face too well. Mother-in-law, every penny in that company was earned by me. If you think the divorce is unfair, I can offer you $5 million as a retirement fund. After all, you know very well the reason for the divorce. I wasn't the one who did wrong. Pablo was the one sneaking around with someone else. He's the one who should leave with nothing. She was silent for a while, clearly weighing her options. But in the end, she still refused. Only 5 million? What? Are you trying to throw pennies at a beggar? Rose, I know you're loaded, this kind of money means nothing to you. And besides, I don't even want your money. What really matters is that you live peacefully with Pablo. There are seductive vixens like that everywhere. Why bother getting involved? These days, what man doesn't cheat? In ancient times they had 3 wives and 4 concubines. You should just turn a blind eye and go on living your life. Chapter 14. So much for turning a blind eye and pretending nothing happened. In the end, I said nothing. I didn't want to say a single word more. I hung up the phone directly. My mother-in-law called me several more times afterward, but I blocked and deleted her contact. Everything related to Pablo had nothing to do with me anymore. 3 days later, on my way to work, someone suddenly rushed at me and kicked me hard in the stomach. The force was brutal, aimed directly at my uterus. I had just miscarried days ago, and the doctor had told me I needed at least a month to recover. That kick knocked me to the ground, and the pain was so intense I couldn't get up at all. Pablo's cold voice sounded in my ear. Rose, stop pretending. It was just one kick. Get up. Pablo seemed completely unhinged. He grabbed my hair and tried to drag me, but I was in too much pain to move. That kick had severely damaged my abdomen, and sharp waves of agony kept hitting me. When I opened my eyes, I saw blood streaming down my thigh. Quick, call an ambulance for me. I begged Pablo weakly, barely able to breathe, but he showed no concern. Instead, he slapped me even harder. Rose, so this is what you've come to. You're divorcing me. What makes you think you can still beg me for anything? Oh, you want me to help? Fine, get on your knees and hand over your company. Then I'll call you an ambulance. Cold sweat soaked my forehead from the pain. My lips moved slightly, but I still couldn't say the words he wanted to hear. Pablo got angrier, yanking at me even harder. Not talking. Huh? Fine, then I'll make sure you suffer. Chapter 15. Pablo was about to slap me again. I quickly shut my eyes. If I had known it would come to this, I would have cut ties cleanly from the start and left him with nothing. But the pain I braced for never came. Instead, I heard Pablo grunt. When I opened my eyes, still clutching my abdomen, I saw Basil had appeared out of nowhere. His fist had landed squarely on Pablo's nose. The two of them were now locked in a scuffle, but it was clear that Pablo was no match for Basil. You bastard. Pablo! You actually hit a woman. Do you even know what Rose has just been through? She was pregnant with your child, and she lost it. Pablo froze, dumbfounded. He even forgot to fight back. What did you say? Basil, furious beyond words, shouted. She miscarried, and you still kicked her in the stomach. You're a fucking animal. Pablo just stood there in a daze. Basil didn't hold back. He threw a few more punches. Only after Pablo was completely defenseless did Basil, panting heavily, rush over and scoop me up in his arms. He carefully carried me to his car. Rose, don't be scared. I'm taking you to the hospital right now. As Basil floored the gas, I instinctively looked out the window. Pablo lay on the ground, bruised and swollen. He tried to stand up, eyes locked in a daze on us as we drove away. And in an instant, both he and the view disappeared into the distance behind us. Chapter 16. I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. Basil dropped everything at his own company just to be with me as a full-time caregiver. The porridge I drank every day was personally cooked by him for 2 hours before he brought it over. All the meals I had were specially prepared by a professional chef he hired, light and healthy. Exactly the way I liked them. When I craved something spicy, Basil would put on a stern face like an elder and firmly forbid it. I couldn't help but complain. You're just a kid, and now you're bossing me around. Basil wasn't pleased. He pressed down on my shoulders, leaned in, and kissed me on the lips. Still think I'm a kid now? I froze, and to my surprise, my face started blushing. This little rascal. Feelings, I suppose, are cultivated little by little, with Basil by my side day after day. I found myself genuinely starting to like him. My impression of him was no longer just that of a clingy puppy or an unreliable flirt. Turns out, a truly responsible man has nothing to do with age. Basil might be younger, but he was dependable when it really mattered. Pablo, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. Pablo refused to sign the divorce agreement, But I didn't care about his opinion at all. I simply authorized my lawyer to file for divorce. All the Instagram posts Grace had made became solid evidence for me, so the divorce case proceeded very smoothly. On the day I received the divorce certificate, Pablo begged me desperately to take him back. He looked devastated. Rose, now I finally realize how important you are to me. I must have been possessed back then. I was just messing around with Grace. She's just a gold digger. Only ever wanted my money. Now that I'm broke, she won't even look at me. Rose, you're the one who truly matters in my life. You're my real wife. I sneered. Mr. Song, have some dignity. The most important quality in an adult is taking responsibility for your actions. When you were chasing after her just because she looked good, flirting behind my back, why didn't you say these things then? And now that you realize I'm important, please, you're just broke and think I'm an easy target. Well, let me tell you something, Pablo. I was never one of those weak women who live and breathe for love. You betrayed me. You lied to me, and I will make you pay. I waved the divorce certificate in front of him, smiling with a raised brow. Remember, this is just the beginning. Chapter 17. 2 weeks later, Basil and I registered our marriage. For the wedding ceremony, we invited nearly every influential figure in our social circle. My companies and the ones founded by Basil now accounted for nearly half the city's economy. Everyone congratulated us, calling it a powerful alliance. They all said we were a perfect match made in heaven. No one ever brought up my failed marriage from the past again. Pablo, penniless after the divorce, never stopped scheming. He worked every networking event he could find, smiling, flattering, begging for a chance. But Basil and I had already spoken privately to everyone in the circle. Anyone else could be given opportunities, just not Pablo. So he was stuck, unable to move forward, worse off than a fresh intern. Rose, are you trying to drive me out of the city? Pablo stopped me at a banquet one night. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and he looked like he'd lost weight. His clothes were disheveled and worn out. Since I left, he no longer had the means to wear luxurious tailored suits. He couldn't even afford a basic one. I gave him a faint smile. You guessed right. I do want you out of the city. Pablo kept trying every trick to get back at me, but eventually, I never even gave him the chance to see me again. 2 months later, I got pregnant. I have to admit, the puppy boy is strong, in both energy and physicality. It was only then I realized that in all those years I was married to Pablo and never got pregnant. It wasn't me who had the problem. It was him. Chapter 18. The next time I saw Grace was during a live stream of someone catching a mistress in the act. She was wearing something revealing and got caught cheating with a married man right on the spot. The wife yanked her hair and beat her up on camera. Because her silhouette looked familiar, I took a closer look, and I couldn't help but admire that wife. She had guts. Grace was someone I had once recruited into the company. I saw that she was an ambitious young woman and wanted to give her a chance. I've always understood how powerful women can be. If she had kept her head down and truly committed to her work, she would have had a bright future ahead of her. But instead, she took the crooked path. She focused all her efforts on seducing Pablo. First, she worked hard to become his secretary. Then, she worked harder to get into his bed. When Pablo hit rock bottom, she saw the writing on the wall and ran off without hesitation. I didn't bother going after her, but I never expected that instead of turning over a new leaf, she would go right back to her old tricks. As the saying goes, those who do evil will be destroyed by it. And now, she was tasting the consequences of her own actions. A year later, I gave birth to a pair of fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. I taught my son how to respect women, and I taught my daughter never to be a fool for love. Of course, I raised them with the same standards. When I bought toy cars and tanks for my son, I also bought a pink set for my daughter, and even got her an extra pink toy gun.